Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all well. Welcome to my channel where I talk about living with a disability, mental health, and my love of surfing. A quick disclaimer before I start talking about anything else. You should know that I am not a medical professional in any way, shape, or form. I'm not a paramedic, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor, or anything like that. Nothing I say should be construed as professional medical advice. Everything I say is my opinion and should be taken as such. If you are in need of medical assistance or medical advice, please seek the help from a relevant medical professional. And we got that out of the way. Let's get stuck in. So I've just got back from 4 days in Bristol, where I was visiting this location, which you should now see on screen. And this is an artificial surfing reef called the Wave. It's one of quite a few that are now dotted around the world, of all different shapes and sizes. It's a brilliant location for people who want to get consistency in their surfing, improve their technique, or start learning from scratch, or for advanced surfers who want to really push the boundaries without having to go to some exotic location. I booked 3 sessions there and I made as much use of them as I could. It's a pretty impressive still looking thing, isn't it? If you examine the shape of it, obviously it's like a big triangle and you can see the spine running up the middle, which is where at the far end were the curved roofs on the building at the end. That's where all the machinery for generating the waves is. So you start at the apex of that triangle at the far end. That's where the wave begins, and as you can see, it spreads out wider and wider until it hits what is effectively the beach. Really, I suppose it's a concrete floor. You can walk up that spine and watch people surfing, so that's quite a fun experience. Interesting to see other people surfing, see what their technique looks like. So I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I'm using it I used it as an opportunity to start brushing up on my surfing technique a little bit and pick up some tips so that I can improve when I go to Portugal, hopefully in May of this year. I'm trying to make that a regular thing. Give me a second, please. So, and the way it works is if you look along the spine that goes up the middle, you also see 2 deep blue channels. So that's where the water returns back up to the apex. So the wave comes out, the water's got to go somewhere, and you get transferred into a deep channel on either side, which takes you back up to the apex. That is where you basically do your paddling to get back up to the top. Otherwise, if that wasn't there, you would just be paddling against the current all the time. And the hardest part of surfing really is not the surfing. I mean, technically that's the hardest part, getting your balance. But physically, paddling can be exhausting. And I was paddling on day 1, and there was a guy next to me, and he really looked beaten up by it. And he was saying to me, you know, I said, God, my shoulders are killing me, my arms are killing me. And so I was saying to him, you know, just use the weight of your arms to let you move through the water. Don't try too hard. It comes like a natural movement when you relax. And the more you relax, the easier it gets, the less tired you are, so on and so forth. But yeah, it's hard work. Because not only are you paddling, but you're lying on a board and you've got the upper part of your chest and your shoulders and your head lifted up to look forwards. So you get tired pretty fast. An hour of surfing is a pretty heavy workout for your shoulders and your back. And then, of course, there's the surfing itself and there's all the swimming around and all that kind of thing. So you certainly burn through the calories and it gives you a hell of an appetite. So switching back to me for a moment. So, yeah. So I was a bit nervous going there. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But the staff are brilliant. They're really friendly. Very helpful. Very professional. All these young guys and girls. They know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. The way everything is arranged is really well thought through. When you arrive for your session and you get your wetsuit and you get your rash vest, it's like that's your coloured t-shirt to kind of show which group you're in. They say rash vest. And you watch your safety video and you have your safety briefing, and then you go and get your boards and you take them through the basics of whatever level you're at. Then eventually get in the water and go paddling out. And it's an exciting experience trying it for the first time. I've been in the ocean loads of times, but this was different. And surfing in an artificial reef is a different surfing experience for reasons I'll explain later on. So while I waffle on, I'm just going to roll some video. God, please work. That's the interior, where they have a cafe and a gift shop and all that kind of thing. And I wanted to buy a souvenir. Ended up paying way too much for a pair of shades. I don't know how I ended up doing that, but yeah, I best make good use of them and I best not lose them. But it was a cool little place. The food was nice, like genuinely really good. It's a bit expensive, but where isn't it expensive these days? You may as well just enjoy yourself, spend what money you've got. So, moving on from the delights of the cafe, where you can sit and watch the surfers, and the gift shop where you can give your money away in return for clothing and souvenir items and trinkets and bits and pieces. We have the wave itself and the experience of surfing itself. As I said before, surfing on a reef like this, an artificial man-made reef, is very different from surfing in the ocean. And I remember talking to my instructors in Portugal about this, because I've been planning this for months. And we were all saying, yeah, the good thing about an artificial reef is you get wave after wave after wave, and it's consistent. You're not sat out there for 10 minutes waiting for the swell to be just right. And that's true. One thing that didn't occur to me is that if you're getting wave after wave after wave, and you're consistently paddling up the channel, waiting for your turn, hopping on the wave, paddling up the channel, going round and round, you actually get really tired fast. So it's quite taxing. So you have a short session of about 45 minutes to an hour. But you'll do more surfing in that hour than you would do in like several days worth of surfing out at sea, because out at sea you are basically just subject to the temperaments of the ocean and the quality of the swell, and you could be sat there waiting for 10 minutes for a wave to come along, or you might get several at once. You really don't know. So this is consistent, which is good for practice, good for your fitness as well, but it doesn't give you much chance to sort of relax. They don't really want you just sitting around in the water. The lifeguards kind of give you a bit of a wave and say to get a move on, basically. If you just sat there idly, you're either paddling or you're surfing, or you're desperately trying to thrash around in the water and get back on your board. So, I had 3 sessions booked, courtesy of my friends who gave me some vouchers for my birthday last year, so thank you so much, guys. I really appreciated that. The first session was actually a lesson. It was what they call an improver lesson, so that's for people who've done some surfing, can pop up, and want to be more consistent. So that was a good choice for me. That's roughly where I am. So they have a bit of a dry land session. You get your board, you put it on the land, and you just practice popping up, because there is a technique to it. Good surfers make it look like they just stand up instantly. It's actually quite tricky to do, especially when you've got a wave pushing you along. Then after that, we were in the water, freezing cold water, and the weather wasn't particularly warm. You can see that from the way people are dressed. The civilians who are walking up and down outside with lots of woolly hats and jackets and scarves. So, fortunately, I'm okay with the cold. So the first session was, as I said, a performer session. So the wave height was pretty low. So nothing too challenging. And it usually takes me a few waves to kind of sort of dialing in my technique and getting the hang of it. And I think by wave 5 or 6 I was getting there, and I caught what I thought was one really good one, which basically means I used to stand on my board and ride all the way in to the shore. So that's a good wave if you can do that. No clever tricks or anything, just stability. I chose a really wide board for this one. And well, initially I chose a very narrow board. Then when we were doing our dry land practice, I realised it was like trying to balance on a pencil, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it on that board at all. I would have gone nowhere. So I chose a different one before I got in the water, and that was like just ridiculously wide. It was the total opposite. It was like the deck of an aircraft carrier. Some facilities there for children to play on, as you can see on screen right now. So they really thought this place through. Anyway, so I got my gigantic surfboard out and got in the water and did my surfing on day 1. And I was quite pleased with it. And then on day 2 we had an improvised session, which is like the lesson, except there's no coaches instructing you or giving you, advice or tips. It's just the same wave height, but going on your own and do your own thing, and observe the rules and protocols. So there's a way of moving around in the water. There's places where you should be and you shouldn't be, and there's things you should be doing at certain areas in the interest of safety. So back to me. Where was I? Yeah, so if you get trashed by the wave early, you have to stay on the side until you're quite close to the shore, and then you can cross around and go back into the channel and swim up. If you do it too far inside, there's a chance you're going to get hit by another surfer. So they're quite regimented about that. They're quite strict about it because safety is very important. Even if they're using foam surfboards, I mean, I've been hit by a foam surfboard. It doesn't feel like foam, it feels like concrete, and you can get injured quite badly. So day 2 was the improvised session, as I said, no instructors. Did okay. But I think this is where we start talking about the mental health aspect, and sort of tangentially the disability aspect. So as much as I love surfing, I find it difficult because, as you can see by the way I'm sat, I have like a twist in my neck and my back. It's very difficult for me to be kind of like square on. I'm trying it now, but it's, even with recent Botox injections, it's difficult to maintain. Hopefully future treatments will improve that. And obviously surfing is all about balance. So I have to work very hard and get my balance right. So I tend to need to drop my weight a lot lower on the board than other people might. I don't think I'm going to have much success with the shorter boards, these little 6 foot long things that the advanced surfers use. I'm not sure I'll ever reach that, to be honest. I'll give it a damn good go. It's something to aim for, but if I don't make it, screw it. The fun I've had all along the way will be worth it. There was a guy in the pool, in the water with us. I think he was about my age, I'm guessing. Quite a stocky guy, had a beard, nice bloke. I had a bit of a chat with him. And I think he was like me, he was kind of struggling a little bit to be consistent. And he was a bit despondent. And about 3/4 of the way through the second session that I'm talking about now, I saw him walking out of the water, taking his board with him. And I thought, right, I'll store that one in my memory because I'm going to talk about it when I make this video. And it's important because I want to talk about the ego and mental fortitude. I love that phrase, mental fortitude. I attribute it to one of the instructors at the Project 180 CrossFit gym, where I was involved several years ago, which is, I'll discuss that some other time. But he used that phrase, and mental fortitude is basically building up the mental toughness. That means that you'll do the things you need to do to improve the aspects of your life that you want to improve, that should be improved, rather than taking the easy route out and making excuses for yourself. I was finding it tricky. When I work out, I keep fit, but like I said, it's still tiring. So I was a bit knackered, and feeling a bit bashed about by the waves. And I think maybe if I'd done this much earlier, I may have been similar to that guy who basically just kind of threw in the towel a bit. I'm kind of throwing him under the bus a bit, but I'm just trying to use him as an example. When I'm surfing, or trying to surf, I'm always content, even when everything's going wrong. I always feel like I'm where I should be, and I only really feel that coming out when the fatigue sets in hard and I get really tired. Because you have to be safe, and there's no point trying to surf when your body just won't do it because you're just too tired. You run out of steam eventually. So I think my mental resilience has developed quite well over the years because it just doesn't occur to me to get out of the water or to think about how exhausting it all is, really. I'm just glad to be there. I'm just glad to be part of this process. Um, as I say, a lot of the time, a bad day of surfing is still a good day. So that was the second session. I had a big dinner that night. I earned it. Then the third session that I had booked in was an intermediate session, and this is where it all kind of went a bit wrong. I underestimated, excuse me. I underestimated what an intermediate session would be like in contrast to an improver session. It was quite a difference. I have been in waves that big in the sea, but like I said, on an artificial reef when they're coming at you non-stop, it's a lot to deal with, because you're getting bashed up every time a wave hits you. And it's not painful, it's not terrifying, but it does sap your energy. And really, I was a little bit out of depth technically. I just couldn't get it right. And these young staff, who are, like I said, a really great bunch of people, I can't praise them highly enough. Even though it wasn't a lesson, a couple of them kind of like beckoned me over or paddled over to me and tried to explain where I was going wrong. I had my board pointed in the wrong direction, and my timing wasn't very good. So towards the end of the third session, I was taking their advice on board, and they were still correcting me and saying, "No, now you've gone a little bit too far to right. Aim it a little bit more that way, and then paddle a bit sooner, pop up a bit faster." And I think if I'd stayed in a bit longer, given sufficient energy to stay in that long, I would have done okay. But the truth is, I didn't catch a wave on session 3 at all, which is a bit embarrassing to admit that. But I don't really care because I enjoyed it. I just really enjoyed being in the water, regardless. It didn't matter. It didn't matter because the bad days, when everything's shit and you're failing and you're not doing what you thought you would do and you're not achieving what you thought you would achieve, they're the most important days of your life, I feel. Because these are the moments where you are given the best opportunities to learn. I mean, literally in my case, I had the guys beckoning me over and saying, "Oh, do you mind if I give you a few tips?" So I'm going, "Yeah, please give me tips," because I was getting it wrong, and I learned things about positioning and technique that I haven't learned in the 6 or 7 years that I've been coming, toing and froing from the world of surf, even with other instructors. Every instructor has something to offer. And every instructor, combined with every session in the waves, is an opportunity to learn and improve. So even though I didn't get what I wanted, which was loads of cool waves and great footage of me carving them up and all that kind of thing, I didn't get any of that. I got a lot of photos of me doing exactly what I didn't want to do, which is basically kind of falling off the board and going, bleh, or falling backwards. Ah. There was a lot of that. I mean, I've literally got photos of me doing that. I've got one short clip of me riding a wave. Yeah, not unexpected or hoped for, but I got what I needed, and that's more important. I think the guy who got out of the water, I'm going to make an assumption about this. I'm just assuming that he got out early because he was pissed off and tired and it wasn't working well for him. And I think that's when you're letting your ego take over. And I think when you succumb to a dysfunctional ego, if we think of your ego as being that part of you which drives you to achieve and attain, it is dysfunctional. It's effectively developing or cultivating a sense of entitlement, which could almost be called a kind of snobbery, really. You feel you should have something, even though you're not prepared for it, you're not ready for it, you don't deserve it. I didn't get the big waves that I wanted to get because I'm not ready for them yet, even after all these years. I've still got a lot of practice to do and a lot of learning to do. And I think if I was a lot younger, that would bother me. And I'd lie to you and I would make excuses. In fact, I would just say, oh yeah, I caught loads of waves, but the cameras weren't working or something. But the fact is, I didn't catch many waves. I kind of sucked. It was a little bit embarrassing, but regardless of all of that, it was still cool to be in the water. It was cool to be in a wetsuit, on a board, paddling around, having a whale of a time. And I'm going to go again as soon as I can and do more of it. So that's kind of the point of today's video, really. It's to talk about the ego, not succumbing to it, and delaying gratification, because you may not be ready for it. You may not be entitled to it in the moment, despite what you think. Your expectations may not be realistic because your ego may have just become a little bit too inflated. Maybe telling you that you should have things that you aren't ready for yet. That's the message in today's video, I think. So I hope you can mull that over, take some time to digest it. I'm certainly going to be digesting my experience as well as that meal I had last night because it was fantastic. And yeah, I'm kind of done really. I never know how to end these videos. I'm not very good at this part. Bye bye. If you got this far, thank you very much for watching and listening. I know it's not very professional, I'm not very good at this, but I think it's more important that rather than scripting it and editing it really heavily, that I kind of wing it a little bit, because it's about mental health, and I can't take the risk of being dishonest, whether that's conscious or subconsciously, by inserting a heavy editing process, other than making a complete balls up where I have to just go, oh god, just start the thing again. I prefer to kind of riff like this, so it's just me kind of stumbling over my words a little bit, not looking into the camera because it's quite difficult. And I hope you get it. I hope you understand why it's like that. So it's not smooth, it's not slick, and it probably never will be. I'll get a bit better at editing things, and I might get some better lighting and maybe a better camera and bits and pieces like that. If you think this video had some value to you, I would be grateful for a donation to buy me a coffee. You're not obligated to by any means, and it's not the most important thing. I'm not doing this for profit. I want to share a message of hope for people who are suffering, going through hard times, feeling that life isn't worth living. There's always something to live for, but sometimes you got to look for it. And sometimes you got to do things that you may not really want to do in that moment, but you never know what's going to come from it. I'll give you this one last example, and I'm not sure where this is going to take me in the future, but I did ask my employer if I could mention this video series, this channel, on the corporate intranet, and that's all I wanted, just like a one line. John Graham is doing this thing, you're interested, go and check it out. It's about mental health and so on and so forth. And they've actually expressed quite a bit of interest in it, and I'm going to be having a conversation with somebody from the people team at work, maybe something will come of it. But things develop, you put in a little bit of effort, you do something that's challenging, you take a risk, you overcome your nerves, and summon up a tiny little bit of courage, and it can take you a long way. So, what's the motto of today's video? Don't let your ego get the better of you. Don't assume you're entitled to things you're not entitled to. Be patient. Do the things that are right and healthy and good for you. Be persistent, and the rewards will come in time. Yeah, that's a good way to sign off. So thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, or I look forward to you seeing me in the next video, because I can't see you. And yeah, that's it. Arrivederci.